Hi everybody and welcome to Primetime Mitch, and today we are discussing Tremors from 1990, and when I say we, I mean myself and Lauren from Analysing Horror. You are coming back to talk with me again. It was the blob before, now it's a long blob. It's Tremors, it's worms. I'm looking forward to this. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Tired and in good spirits. Yeah, it's been a really lazy weekend apart from the last 3 hours.
Yeah, it's been a lazy weekend for me as well. It's been nice, but
they're the best. So we're talking Tremors today. I saw you did a reel a while ago, which was really funny, and it reminded me of the movie, and I just had an urge to talk about it. What was your first introduction to this film?
Oh man, I actually need to call up my friend from Twitter, Emilio. He actually introduced me to the movie, and I'm a 90s girl myself, but the movie completely passed me by. And then my friend Emilio was like, "Oh, you know about this movie called Tremors? It's from the 90s." I'm like, "How did I not know about this?" Watched it, absolutely loved it. And so I've just been obsessed with it ever since.
It's right on the cusp of the 90s, though. I mean, I was 5 when that came out. So,
I know.
You know, I think you get a pass for not knowing about it.
Thanks. I mean, I mentioned that I rewatched it just this morning to kind of get reacclimated for today's collab. And there's this one part where I think it's Earl was just like babbling at Kevin Bacon. He's going blah, 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 blah. And there's this one part where Kevin Bacon just turns to him and goes, "Shut the hell up." It's so funny.
There are going to be spoilers on this for anybody watching this. So I should have said that at the beginning, but, you know, it's early enough now. I think this establishes as a comedy horror straight away. Yeah. It tells you right from the off. It doesn't try to be something. It doesn't like lure you in with this false sense of this is going to be a really scary horror. It tells you this is going to be a comedy with horror in it. I think probably just for the fact that Kevin Bacon's pissing off at the side of a cliff to begin with.
Yeah. And I'll, if I may continue with what you just said, I feel like the characters do a really great job of creating that like comedy aspect, like the camaraderie, banter off of each other. And then before you even get to experience like the horror aspect, you just get to experience kind of like the, if I may say, it's kind of like a Simon Pegg, like, and like kind of like Shaun of the Dead kind of thing. They have their own little camaraderie before anything is to happen. So I feel like they do a really great job creating that.
I'm rooting for them because they're dumb but in a harmless way.
Yeah.
Oh, I broke a nail. Makes my skin crawl. Well, I'm a victim of circumstance. I thought you called it your pecker.
I think the fact that even right from the start, they can't even agree on what happened yesterday. You know, you don't know what day it is. You know,
I made breakfast yesterday. No, you made breakfast yesterday. It's like 1, 2, 3. It's like, well, I love that part where he's like, "Oh, well, if I was that old, I wouldn't remember what I had for breakfast as either yesterday." It's so funny. I have a partial love for like male friendships when it comes to movies and stuff. So like just seeing like the like platonic love there.
It puts you in a good mood as well, I think. Yeah. And you're in the right frame of mind to enjoy the rest of the movie. I think it's a really good way to start.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a good way to start the movie. And then when, you know, shit hits the fan, it's just like, oh, like these two friends, and it's like, what the hell's going on? Like the whole thing. And then when they have to be stuck on the boulders and stuff like that, like, yeah, they did a good job creating the camaraderie before the alien or whatever the hell it is. So
well, they do. I think they do a good job with character work in general. I was going to go on to the subject of characters. Obviously, those two take the lead beautifully, I think. But I like the supporting roles because they're just it's such a small town.
Reba's in it.
Oh, I actually have written here in big capital letters, Reba McEntire, business picks up.
Down, honey, down.
I was so happy that she was in it.
That was definitely before her time, you know?
Yes, yeah.
Like she had like the big hair. Like that was back before she like, I guess, did anything. But that's really cool.
Well, her and her husband are a great couple of characters. You know, they're really like gun crazy. Yeah. She's a little sort of more calm than he is. They're a little outcast from the rest because they're they're always together, aren't they? They're always like in it together, and they end up being pretty heroic at later stages of the movie. So I really like them. I also liked some of the dialogue. Sometimes in movies you're shouting at the screen because they're not seeing what you're seeing, but they ask questions that I would be asking. So. Like, I think there's a point where they say, like, you know, when they find the guy up the he's stuck up and he's dehydrated. Oh,
yeah, going on the tower or something.
Yeah. And they basically say, well, did something camp down there and wait for him? Why did, you know, and they asked that question that I was asking.
They're physical about finding the body themselves, but then afterwards they had questions in the car. And I liked that, where it's just like, well, like, why was he up there? Like, was something waiting for him down there? Like, what made him die of starvation up there? Like, why didn't he just climb down? Like, all of the questions. Like, I just really liked that build up to eventually figuring out like the beings or whatever we want to call them.
I've written down here, Melvin is a moron. The young kid who's just sort of it's like he's just a bit of an idiot, isn't he? He seems to just want to piss everybody off all the way through the movie, and it's only like at the end when he's on the roof that he suddenly realizes that, you know, he could die here. You know, it's just
true teenage behavior, isn't it?
It is. But I cared about them, you know.
And then you find out, and then you're like, "Oh no, I'm about to die!"
Yeah, and then the panic sets in. It's like, oh, I've lost sympathy for you now.
All of a sudden, it's like, "Oh no, everybody help me!" It's like, you put yourself in this situation, sir.
You're on your own now.
Why are you acting like I put you here? You did this.
On the same subject, I really, really love the dialogue in this movie. I think it's so funny. But it's funny, and it's sort of, it's not over the top, cheesy, like cringy or anything. I do believe they would say these things in these situations. And you brought up the shut the hell up in the car, but the bit that had me laughing was it was Earl again, because Fred Ward's amazing in this. But he says something like, "So we're stuck," and that pisses me off. It's just like, okay, well, I'm glad we know it annoys you. Can we do something about it now?
Like, I'm scared. It's like, that pisses me off. I don't like it. But the dialogue is absolutely amazing. Like, I could like walk us through the entire movie and be like, I love that part. I love that part. I love that part. Like, there are just so many great scenes. It just organically, you know, like it feels like we're literally just watching two people do work, you know?
Yeah, it's not, I agree.
It doesn't feel scripted at all. Like, it feels like they are actually just two people and we're experiencing their life. So that's one of the reasons why I love the movie so much.
What was your opinion on how it was shot? Because it's such a vast, wide open area to work in. You're not running in and out of buildings and things like that. And how effective did you think that was?
I actually really enjoyed that. You know, my name's Analyzing Horror, so I've seen a lot of horror movies. I feel like there's like a bunch of different like locations that horror can be in. I know this is like comedy, horror, thriller, or whatever you want to call it. I really liked that it was like open space. I thought they did a really great job with that. Early on, it was just the two characters and like, you know, they're in their like work truck, they're doing their thing. And then it eventually develops into something. So I thought they did a really great job with kind of having like the open space.
Because no one can really help them, can they? Because they're so far out. It's almost like you have no choice but to sort of deal with this situation. I did love one particular scene. I know they did the Jaws shot where it was sort of following from the perspective, but the best bit I thought was when they were looking. Was it the guy that was like a sheep herder? He had sheep and it killed all his sheep. And they find his face, don't they, in the ground, or his head in the ground.
That's the what the hell is going on scene.
That's what you did today, wasn't it? Yeah. But I loved the fact that they showed this shot from above the house of them running in to check on him. It's quite clearly that he is going to be in the ground somewhere. He's not going to be in this building, so there's no need to go in there with them and find nothing. They just keep that wide open shot, so it shows them running in the house, and all the while, his hat's on the floor down in the corner.
Right.
I just love that sort of long shot. Like, he ain't in the house, he is going to be all around you. He's going to be somewhere all around you. Yeah, so I really like that.
I mean, overall, they do a really good job with the cinematography in the movie, but you make a really great point where, like, it's so wide open space, but at the same time, so isolating. So it's like, if you need help, like hardly anyone is able to help you. They end up like secluded on this giant rock or boulder at one point. So it's just like, it's very interesting how I love like horror movies where they've got like one location. So it's like you're secluded to one spot. So you're kind of like you're stuck in a lot of ways. But I feel like Tremors does a really good job of like, you've got all this open space, but at the same time you're isolated just as much as the other movies I just described. So I feel like they did a really good job. And I've only seen the first movie, admittedly, but I absolutely love it.
I probably will watch the other ones at some point, although I get the feeling it might be a little bit of a come down.
I've heard that 2 is really good, but after that, it's kind of like the rest of the Chucky movies where it's like, it's fun.
Acquired taste.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's one of the things that I love about this movie so much is that they have no idea what they're dealing with. So it's like it's a guy dying of dehydration up on a tower. Then they have the what the hell's going on thing. And then they have the one going through the concrete and it's just like, we killed it. And like just all of it. It's just like they had no idea what they were dealing with.
I still don't think they do at the end. I mean, it's like, I think is it called like a graboid or something? I heard that's what they called the creature. Because I thought it was fantastic as a swerve that it was one big creature with a bunch of little sort of parasitic things coming off it. Because I thought it was just small worms. I didn't know that it was like one big sort of hub and then everything coming out of it.
Yeah,
so I was impressed with that.
One scene where it's like this giant like kind of egg thing and then like 3 different things come out. So that makes sense. But
kind of reminds me of Cloverfield when the big thing has all the spider things falling off it.
Yeah,
doing its work. Yeah.
That tunnel scene in Cloverfield still gives me nightmares.
It's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites of all time, Cloverfield. Absolutely.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much because it's so terrifying.
Yeah. I've also put here the film shows a ruthless side because I really like that couple that was sort of just chilling out at night and then the car gets dragged into the ground.
Oh, right.
The old couple, I felt really sad for them. So I was like, that was the saddest part of the movie for me. They were just an old couple sort of having
They're just minding their business.
Yeah, moonlight night, and then that.
Yeah, I feel bad because I feel like there's that one part where I feel like the husband had the keys and he kind of like got sunk in.
Yeah.
She went to like take the car, but kind of like, the husband-wife thing. Like he has the keys, so she doesn't have the keys. Yeah. So she's got the car, but she doesn't have the keys. So she's absolutely f***ed. So
yeah, and they start hitting the window, don't they? And all the drill is on the window. I like that.
Yeah. Very scary.
That was actually sort of reminded me the way it was quite ruthless with this couple of people that are harmless. And the way it came through at the other side of the glass, it was that was the movie's Blob moment for me. The way we talked about that last time, I sort of wrote down that it reminded me of that.
I love that you brought that up because yeah, I feel like this movie and the Blob have like some similarities. So yeah, definitely, especially with the car scene. So yeah, I agree.
Your thoughts on the effects?
Like special effects and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I thought they did a really great job. And I'm very partial to like 80s, 90s effects, like before CGI and stuff like that. So I really enjoy when you can like see it being done. It's hard to say because like, is it perfect? No, but at the same time, is it CGI? No. So in a word, it's I love it. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I like the Tremors tentacles and stuff like that coming out, and I thought they did a really great job. Like there's even that one scene that I mentioned earlier where for lack of a better term, like one of the Tremor like creatures kind of like crashes itself through a concrete wall. And there's the whole scene with Kevin Bacon where it's like, we killed him. You. And it's just like flop.
I didn't believe initially when I first watched this movie that those worms would be powerful enough to go through such hard ground underneath because there's no moisture. It's like desert, isn't it? I didn't believe it. And then when you see the bigger version of it, you're like, that's why it's so powerful because it's huge. And I just, I like that. I liked that they explained just why it could travel so fast through such a hard terrain.
Yeah. No, that's part of the fun of it, I guess, for me, because it's just like, you know, you start off thinking, oh, it's just one. And it's just like, oh, no, there's a whole like mother and it's just like spewing them all out. And it's just like, oh, God, it's so much worse than I thought it was.
It's like a backwards squid, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know what to call them, like Tremors. I'll just call them that.
Yeah, I call them Tremors.
One of them just like crashes its head through concrete and then it just kind of like lolls there, like a pitiful little thing.
Yeah, but you've actually touched on something there because you meant like the point where it breaks through the concrete. Certainly at the end when it goes through the cliff and.
Right.
It does actually explode because it isn't like it's not like made of armor or anything. It is just a soft entity, but it has its weaknesses, and I think that shows its weakness. If it had gone through the cliff and just been perfectly okay, I'd have been like, what the hell's this thing made of? But they stay true to it. I also love the blood that comes out of it because it's like a sort of a dilute color. It's not like deep red, because if you stood on a worm, it's got its own type orangey of sort of color, isn't it? So I think they did the research then on maybe actual worms. Probably.
Did the research on worms.
Just go chop that one in half and see what happens. All right, we'll recreate that on a grand scale.
Well, I haven't done my own research on worms, but I will say I like that it's not the deep red, so it is different, and I can appreciate that. So yeah, absolutely.
I saw that it was a lot of the special effects crew worked on a lot of sci-fi stuff. I think like Total Recall and things like that. They did some of the Alien stuff as well. And the writers actually are from Short Circuit. So there's a lot of this movie really should have looked the way it did because they had a pretty good team behind them.
Oh, well, that's brilliant. That speaks to why the movie is so amazing. Have you watched the new Fallout show by chance?
I haven't yet. No, it's something I'll watch with my son. I think that because he's well on the side of that kind of thing, so he'd be a good critic.
Have you played the game at all or anything?
I've played it briefly with him, and then he just takes over because I'm just not very good.
Okay. And the reason why I brought it up is that I just feel like, from what I understand about the show, is that there are a lot of people that came together and they had a lot of passion for making it like game to show. It wasn't like, oh, we're gonna make it like our own, or you know what I mean? Like they
wanted to be accurate with it.
Yeah, they wanted it to be like, so we have this game and we want to create it into a show and we want it to be as accurate and loyal as possible. And you know, I read at least 3 people being like, oh yeah, we absolutely want this to be as accurate as possible. Just like, that makes me so happy. So I brought that up just because it's like that's so cool. And I feel like, unfortunately, I feel like I love The Last of Us, the game, and I feel like that wasn't necessarily the case when it came to the first season. So getting to see all of that with Fallout, and I was just like, oh yeah,
It's made up for
you're
it.
doing it right. You're doing it right.
Well, maybe they need to do a Tremors game, because I quite like the idea of having to get up to high places because the ground underneath you is like a threat.
A Tremors game would be so tremendous. I would love that so much.
If it happens, I'm going to see if I can get sponsored by it. We called it here first. Yeah,
you better, and then give me the code.
yeah, you get a discount, obviously.
Exactly.
I've put here that the effects in the movie get very good once they're in the store and it breaks and it comes through the ground and up into the store,
right?
And it kills the Mr. Chang. Yeah, I loved seeing it. And indoors as well. I thought that was really novel because a lot of it was outside. Most of the time.
Yeah. As we mentioned, the beginning of the movie is very like open world, like kind of just driving around, and then the second act is when we get into like this, what do you call it, like a just grocery store establishment, and then that's when it kind of becomes like more like closed doors, scary kind of thing. So I love the way that the movie is done as a whole. So as I mentioned, like the open world, and then they also move us into like one establishment, and that is scary too. And then we get on a freaking roof and then a boulder. Like
how cool was that? Having them all on separate buildings. I loved that because they're all having to shout across to each other to communicate. I thought that was brilliant.
Scene.
Yeah, just like she's sort of stuck on the water tower and she can't get down. And they're having to communicate like long distance and on the little walkie-talkies and stuff. I just thought that was such a cool setup. Where you had them dotted about in different places. I like that a lot.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I think that they did that really well. It's like, I don't mean to repeat myself, but the whole like open scene thing, and then the small building, and then we're on a rooftop. I feel like we have gone all over the place with the movie. And I just really love that.
Well, I think it's good that they're up in a high place like that because it gives them time to work out what to do. They're not having to think in the split second, so they can come up with some elaborate plan to kill it because they've got the time and the space to do it. Sometimes I think in movies, the quick thinking is just too good. But this one, they get a chance to put their heads together and think about it because it cannot get to them. And I like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's part of why it's so fun to see, Kevin Bacon do the whole, what the hell is going on? It's like, I cannot wrap my head about what am I seeing right now? Like,
all the way through, he has no idea what's going on. He actually ends the movie in the same place as he starts.
That's so true. He's just like, I still don't know what the is going on right now. Like, I absolutely love their camaraderie. Like, as I mentioned earlier, like I could watch the first 20 minutes of that movie and I don't need to see one Tremor. I just need to see the two of them just be like, who's going to make breakfast? You did yesterday. Well, I thought you did yesterday, but I did yesterday. Okay, well, rock, paper, scissors. Okay, well, if I was old enough, I wouldn't remember who made breakfast anyway.
I get the feeling they could have done a spin-off with those two, like a Blazing Saddles kind of thing. That would have been really funny. But
I know.
But there's not many Western horrors either. I mean, there's certainly not comedy horror. I know, like, the only one that comes to mind is like Bone Tomahawk or something, but that's quite a different movie altogether. But yeah, it's a different setting to have a creature feature as well. It's unusual.
Yeah, and if I may say, I don't think that I would necessarily call it a Western, but at the same time, you're absolutely right. It is, in the southern region, it has its own kind of like vibe.
It's all that country music. I just love it. I love it. I'm a big country music fan, so as soon as I hear
yeah. Well, you're right. Yeah, it does. It definitely has a like country, like music vibe. So maybe I'm wrong.
It's all the sheep farmers as well, and the trailers being sort of quite a way away from each other, and everyone has their own land and stuff. That's how I associate westerns.
Oh, yeah.
To be.
No, you're probably right. No, I'm probably being a little bit too picky about it, but yeah, like
I trust you more.
It's definitely Southern. I agree with you.
You're from the States. I don't listen to anything I say. I only had like 10 days there. I've no room to talk.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm from Oklahoma, so that's why I kind of being a little bit picky about it. Or it's just like, is it Southern or is it just from the South?
I'm presuming there's a lot to being to like Southern. That covers a lot of categories. It's not just sort of base value, is it?
When you say Southern, you could also mean Georgia or something like that. So all the way over there. Like I'm just right above from Texas, so it's very different. So, but you're right. Like they have their own like music going on and like I love that. I love that music.
There's one really funny image in it that absolutely kills me. How small is that town?
What town?
Where they live. It's like there's like one store, and a couple of
probably
houses.
Very small.
It's about the size of a football field.
Yeah, and they probably have like 2 buildings as we saw them jumping off. So it's just like this.
Well, in that case, the sign on the sign that's outside the store says the coldest beer in town. Where else is there? That just really made me laugh because I was like,
miles that way.
It's such a bold statement to make. You know, we've got the coldest beer in town, and all our competitors are in different cities. That's 500 miles away.
That's like putting a sign up being like best pizza in town. It's like, I don't know where the next town is. So of course it's the best pizza in town.
Well, you're going to stay there, aren't you?
Pizza in town.
I'm not going to travel miles out just to get warm beer or or low grade pizza, you know.
Yeah, well, you got cold pizza. Yeah. Yeah, that's funny.
I want to ask, have you got plans to watch the very many versions and sequels that are out there that follow this?
Yeah, you've inspired me. I've only seen the first one, but I've heard that 2 is very good, and the rest are kind of like, to be enjoyed.
So I should put the ones following 2. I could even put them on my Mockbusters YouTube category. We do like deliberately bad movies, like really low budget, terrible films. Yeah, like Mega Shark and things like that. And yeah, the last one we did was Terror Birds. I showed you that clip. Yeah, so I think Tremors 3 and 4 and 5 or whatever it is, I'll probably put them in the Mockbusters category and see whether there's probably a lot of CGI, I imagine. Would you put it in like the higher tier of that kind of movie, or would you say it was more in the middle? Because obviously there's a lot of comedy involved, but I do think the practical effects are good enough to hold up in some of the better ones.
And it's just in general, not just
in general.
Okay. I think I probably would put it, if I do like a 1 to 10 tier, I would put it at a, either 6 or 7. I feel like the humor is definitely there. The horror isn't. It's there, but it's not, a ton. That's why it's like a comedy horror kind of thing. But the performances and the humor is very enjoyable. So I'd probably put it, I would say 7.
Yeah, I'd probably say that as well. I think it's not like when you look at sort of creature-based movies, like I said, we watched The Blob. I would class that as a creature. I'd even class The Thing as creature as well, because of the amount of effort that goes into creating that monster. So it's not at that level, but it deserves sort of to be just slightly above the middle, I think. Yeah.
And they didn't use CGI, they use practical effects and stuff, and that needs to be appreciated. I feel like every time you see an older movie where it's just like, like I hate people that just like, that movie's terrible. I'm like, they use practical effects, respect them.
It's the hard work. It's the hard work that goes into it. I mean, anybody can click a mouse and learn how to work a program, but to actually come up with some of the things that they've obviously come up with in this movie to create some of these images, just seeing the things screaming and stuff like that is incredible to me. So yeah, anything practical is a winner.
I completely agree. Yeah. And anytime I see practical effects, like it's like maybe that movie wasn't for me, but there's practical effects, so we got to respect it. So
I agree wholeheartedly. I think we should ban CGI. No, we should use it sparingly. You should be allowed to use it twice in one movie for about a minute.
Yeah. Do you ever see those behind the scenes of like Marvel movies where like the superhero is like literally in front of a green screen?
Oh, the green screens, yeah.
Nothing's happening, and so they like put everything around them. Just like, what is this?
You see, I don't mind green screen, but it's like if the whole movie relies on the green screen, and it's like nobody's actually acting on set because they're too busy sort of jumping around on this world of green. I mean, I think it's used once in Tremors when Bert is shooting at it, and they show him shooting in front of the monster. And it's once is that used. The rest of the time it sort of cuts to him shooting close up, and then it goes back to the monster. But they have one shot where he's in the same shot as it. But that's where it works. But if you're basing the whole movie on a green screen, then it's not real enough, you know.
Well, I mean, because we had so much practical effects, I didn't really even notice that happened. But yeah, you're right. Well, if a movie is like completely CGI, like you become desensitized by it. So
I'll put the clip up over the top of this video when it goes out, and I'll send you the link, and you can see what I mean. It's only brief. It looks good.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I mean, you know, you said that it's in the movie, and I just completely surpassed it. So.
It was more impressive back then. They just use it in everything now. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that's part of why it's like I'm such an advocate for practical effects, because I feel like there's nothing wrong with occasional CGI, but do we need to use it in literally every scene? Can we possibly bring back practical effects and then like integrate CGI, like kind of do best of both worlds kind of thing?
They should, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Like you mentioned, like the 90s, The Thing and stuff like that. Like I feel like that's a really great depiction of practical effects. Like we're still capable of that. So
yeah, I don't think people just get lazy, I think.
Yeah. I think, I mean, it's like, oh, budget. And it's like, budget.
You can do amazing things on a budget if you just have a creative mind and give yourself time to think. But I think people just want a quick fix, and maybe that's the problem. Thank you so much for talking about Tremors with me today. I've had a really good time. I'm glad I got to watch it again, and I'm glad I had a reason to watch it again. And I'm probably going to go ahead and watch the sequels and probably progressively get more upset. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this video. Thanks for collabing with me. And we got to do this again, but it's probably going to be another creature feature. I'm seeing a pattern here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Never a chore. Thanks, Lauren. Thank you, guys. This has been Primetime Itch. That was Lauren from Analyzing Horror, and this was Tremors. I will see you again soon for another video. Have a good day.